The Volkswagen Passat R-Line has a facelift. In our review, let's go! In the front of the Passat R-Line Special Edition you can find the corresponding badge, but also a lot of dark contrasts here that makes this sporty look, and also the normal ground clearance, unlike with the All-Track that is a little bit higher. The headlamps here also, again with the normal facelift LED standard. And now those ones here are also the top trim headlamps, the so-called Matrix LED, and they also have a new brand name for it. Also stands here at the side, they call it IQ Light now. Side profile of the Passat R-Line. You can see the dropping line here at the height of the door handle, especially in this very color. And we got those top 19-inch wheels, and they are all blacked out here, so this more aggressive styling, and also shiny black frames all around the windows. So do you like it when the Passat has this sporty styling? The Passat facelift not only changed the braking light signature, it also added this Passat lettering right there, so this looks a little bit more sophisticated then. And the R-Line comes with a black contrast in the lower part, and whoa, what do we have here? So in this case, those fake exhaust visual elements are a special dual fake exhaust. And just to be very precise, that everything is in black right here at the front grille, and also those shiny black frames around the windows together with the black roof. This is not special to the R-Line in general, but only to the R-Line Special Edition, 2000 pieces limited edition. Well, otherwise, if you would just pop up an R-Line to a normal Passat trim, then you would get the frames as they are in that special trim, for example, chrome, or also the normal black rubber style. Well, I think they should make this special edition the normal R-Line, because with with the shiny black frames and also with those elements there in the front, this is how the R-Line should really look like for the Passat, and not only for the special edition. Oh, what's your take on that? Engines. Let's take a look. Well, the facelift has updated all of the engines, also as for the emissions treatment and so on. And this is the top trim spec TDI, 2-liter TDI with 240 horsepower. There are also weaker horsepower variants. This one here, the bi-turbo, the other one single turbo, and also smaller 1.6 TDI. And on the petrol side, the strongest one is the 2-liter TSI with 272 horsepower. Also lower horsepower specs, and the smallest one is a 1.5 TSI. And join me now on the interior of the Passat R-Line. The interesting thing is there are some sporty elements like those, checkered aluminum style here at the inside of the doors. Here also then again a soft touch. Here some contrast stitches in white. And they also have a steering wheel with the R-Line badge. This again the new facelifted steering wheel with this more, different edge style contrast. Before that it looked a little bit more boring. And again those decor elements, and the seats are also special. They have more side support, sport seats, and they usually come as standard with Alcantara on the inside. What we would also recommend, this one, the optional animal skin pack, which is worse in the climate functions for summer and also less sustainable. And here the R stitching, and this element here, this is then leather red in this carbon fiber fabric style, so to say. This is here an example of an Alcantara seat taken from a GTE interior. It is not the R-Line seat, but it's somewhat similar. And there you can see the Alcantara surface on the inside. It looks really nice and is also definitely cozier. Well, and what about those sport seats? Are they actually more or less comfortable? And well, it doesn't make too much of a difference for the very seat form you get. Most of the Passat seats, they are always very comfortable and also suitable for taller people. This is actually no problem. So really satisfied with that. Those one here also come with the electric control. So you can also use that here with the electric lumbar support too. And you can also put the front area a little bit longer or shorter depending on your legs. You can see wireless charging from the smartphone here. The R-Line has again this different decor element right here, and well, that the analog clock was removed right here. You can see with the Passat badge, since 6.5, 8-inch and then the top 9.2-inch, this one here has then less space to put the hazard light somewhere, so they put it right there, and probably the clock couldn't be there. So this could also be one of the reasons for that. Very interesting. Well, but here with the infotainment system, soon also a little bit more details to that. Interesting is also that the smartphone either works now with the wireless Apple CarPlay, so that is possible, or then again the classic connection with the cable. The wireless you would connect via Bluetooth. The cable connection right there, you put it in like this. There's USB-C port right now, so I need this adapter here to be able to fit that one. And then we get it here, use Apple CarPlay. So that's a live demo now, how fast it goes. And well, connecting it via Bluetooth is actually the same speed. So both works depending on what you prefer. Very nice sound system here, by the way, the optional DIN audio sound system. So I already know it from the Tiguan, and here also a pretty clear sound and not too bass heavy. I like it when it's not only focusing on the bass. Then next to the Apple CarPlay system right here, you can also go back to the car internal system, have this home screen. You can also individually configure, for example. Then here with 2 fingers you swipe those ones here. With 1 finger you can go inside a different menu. I'm in flight mode here. So here with the GPS is in night mode because we are standing in the shadow here. It's very interesting. And I have also the lights on. So there it is. Switch the light now. Here it is. So responsiveness actually quite good. This is the button where you then go back to the auto zoom again. And other functions are, for example, here for the vehicle. You have the tire pressure control, for example, driving data and so on. There's our consumption here for the last ride. You can also score some lower ones with the diesel, but it will relatively remain the same as for the consumption figures. So that's the good thing about the diesel overall. As for the rear view camera, you can put in reverse gear and then have it right here with a good resolution. Also with the drone view from above. But you can also hit the separate camera button in the lower middle console. Then you have this view here, but from the side. Not sure how practical that one is, but it's a little bit bigger than overall. But you have the possibilities if you go for the highest trim for this rear view camera. This front control unit is very interesting here with the head-up display. You can have it in your line of sight. You can even adjust the height with a small knob here next to the steering wheel. That's quite handy. That looks funny, doesn't it? Well, but it's not directly projected into the windscreen. It's cool to have. But the other ones are, of course, a little bit more sophisticated, but also more expensive. Then those digital instruments right there. You can still get analog ones, that is possible. But here you're a little bit more flexible because you can change the view. You can also have a GPS view all the way. It's not flickering in real life, by the way, just on camera here. And then also adapt this however you want it. And you can see they went all the way for USB-C now, here already in the front, but also if we go to the lower middle console, here next to the cup holders, and then under the armrest, again another USB-C port. The rear has the very same style, also with this carbon fiber fabric, and if you would have the Alcantara package, it would also show then grey Alcantara on the inside, and that's really beautiful as a contrast. A lot of legroom and headroom both. 1.86 m or 6'1", my size, and this is really comfortable here. And the seat form also doesn't change anything of the legroom you have. So it's a really good travel vehicle also for 4 adults. Not exactly for the 5th one, but for 4 it works very well. look at the cover. You can see behind the glass, it's closed all the way. Now when I flip the logo for the electric hatch, have you heard it maybe? Not sure. Here, this was done automatically. This first step from this manual cover, then you can easier access the trunk. I think it's a very nice solution. If you want it all the way back, do it like this, or that one would be all the way closed then. So interesting solution right there. And then option is also this one here, if you want, like, you know, a beer box or something which is very heavy, then you can slide it all the way through the end. Other than that, if you're not having any heavy items, you can rather just slide them manually through. That is an easier solution. So Passat trunk all the way, and then you can also flip the seats and have the maximum loading setup. So yeah, this is a big advantage of the S8, of course. Easy loading in and a lot of space. Acceleration. Plop, that was already 80. So it was a 0 to 80 kilometers acceleration. Here now with the 2-liter TDI bi-turbo with 240 horsepower. And if you compare that one to the very strongest petrol engine in the lineup for the Passat, the 2-liter TSI with 272 horsepower, there's an acceleration difference of a half of a second. So the petrol is half a second faster in the 0 to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour acceleration. That's very interesting. So they both come somewhat close with 5.8 and 6.3 seconds for the variant, for the Estate. In the Estate they are a little bit less performant than in the sedan. The sedan has, you know, a little bit lower center of gravity and a little bit less weight because less chassis is being used, so to say, from the building form. So this is the same with some, you know, a lot of other models. The sedans are actually the sportier ones, even though they not always look that sporty, however. Very interesting. So a very good punch you get it here from the top diesel. I have already driven it once in the Volkswagen Tiguan. That was also very interesting. And also the Skoda Kodiaq RS is using the very same engine. And you might have picked up the sound. I think for a diesel it really sounds quite nice, and you know, that can also make sense in a consumption way. I'll test it out later. We'll now go on the motorway and tell you more about that. And then I also reset the consumption meter and see what we can score as minimum consumption if we just think about what would you have as a fuel consumption when you just cruise it on the motorway and try to be more efficient. First of all, more about the performance. Now getting on the motorway. Oh, that guy will pull us out if we get stuck somewhere or so. I mean, it's a new engine. Shouldn't be anything wrong with that, right? Well, people have had that with new cars in general, but of course it doesn't happen that much. That's good. Here also with a nice progressive steering. I like that. You have a good feeling in the steering wheel and you don't have to turn the steering that much. The car feels also pretty agile. It's also equipped with the DCC, the dynamic chassis control here. I'm in the sport mode. That gives me a little bit more feedback from the suspension. You can get a base suspension, you can get a sports suspension. That is then the base suspension is set a little bit lower. The DCC is also always set a little bit lower, but since it's adaptive, it's still more comfortable in the base suspension, at least when you're in the comfort in the normal mode. In the sport mode then, of course, it's a little bit stiffer, but that's also then intended. But still, even in the sport mode, it's quite comfortable. You know, again, you feel this torque from the diesel engine. It really has a lot of performance, and you know, I'm not even sure. I mean, from the low RPM regions, the petrol feels sportier and more responsive. But especially if you already are on speed somewhat, then the diesel even feels sportier than the petrol engine because it just has more torque. Let's floor it out. Here we're at 150 kilometers already. And again, the car is pretty sunny, although it's quite windy outside and the tarmac is a little bit rough and so on. So the diesel here is actually a quite good pick. They also have the SCR cleaning, so that one almost eliminates the NOx emissions. Yeah, I mean, they had really a lot of problems and so much stuff has gone wrong with the diesel scandal. But, you know, the good thing about those scandals is that after that, things are usually better. Yeah, and that's what we also have here then at the moment. So, great performance from this diesel. And also power-wise, it's really fun to drive. So it's one of those cars where you say that maybe the diesel could even be a more performance solution in this case. And especially in Europe, people still pick it mainly because of the fuel consumption. So what about that? Let's reset the consumption meter. Then we can activate the ACC, the adaptive cruise control, one of the very good options you can go for. And now we're just about 120 kilometers an hour, and we just have it on cruise control and see what that one brings us to. I found it very interesting that they must have been working on the petrol engine as well, because we had quite low consumption with the petrol engine of the Passat here, between 6 and 8 liters in 100 kilometers. And that's usually a little bit higher. If you all think about 2-liter TSI when we drive it in a Golf GTI or something like that. So very interesting as for this aspect. You can of course score lower consumption figures with the diesel. And let's just see. Oh, by the way, the cruise control with the higher spec is picking up that the speed has changed and then is also adaptive. So this is also the so-called predictive cruise control. It knows actually what's coming ahead by map data and then comparing it also with camera data and then also adapting to the speed when new traffic signs are being realized. So, and when we just have it here on the cruise control, it already starts again at about 6 liters per 100 kilometers, and that's again quite decent, but it makes me even wonder why we could score so low consumption figures with the petrol engine in our other test. That was even more astonishing. And again, Passat scores very well with this sovereign ride, confidence, calmness, especially here one of the best motorway vehicles. Suspension is the same as in our test with the All-Track. And the question is, when I'm having the normal DCC and now and compare it to a little bit higher ride of the Passat All-Track, do we really feel that? Holger, what do you think? Do you feel any difference to driving like the Passat All-Track, which was a little bit higher?
No.
Holger says no, as a co-driver. So I think it's always very important to ask also the co-driver then, know what he or she is feeling about that.
It's a difference 20 millimeters.
Yeah, I mean it's just a little bit, but if someone would say, like, close your eyes now and tell me if you are driving in the All-Track and normal, maybe a little bit, just little. But since the All-Track suspension with the DCC also is really good adaptive, not shaking up too much, it's not such a big difference in driving. Again, here in sport mode, a little bit more feedback from suspension, steering a little bit stiffer. If we go to the normal mode, it's a little bit softer from suspension. You maybe also see it on camera, shakes a little bit more, and the steering is lighter. And the interesting thing is, in the individual mode, you can, for example, say, I want a soft suspension, but I want more feedback from the steering and make that one stiffer. So that's also very interesting. So consumption here at 6 liters per 100 kilometers, that would be, in the mid 30 mpg US, like 35, 36 mpg US regions, and more than 40 mpg UK. So that's really good figures, almost 50 mpg UK. So you can definitely live with that. Then you might ask yourself, what's then the big difference in fuel consumption, diesel and petrol engine here? First of all, the petrol scored very well astonishingly well. This one was kind of expected here now with the diesel. But the difference is, when you hammer the petrol engine, the fuel consumption will go way up. And when you hammer the diesel engine, it will still go up, but not in this wide span as it would do with the petrol engine. So that's the difference we've already had with a lot of different cars where we compared petrol and diesel engine. So if you go for the R-Line with this visual pack, we could definitely recommend also to go for the DCC, not to pick the R-Line suspension or the so-called sport suspension, because the ride might be a little bit too stiff then. So either stick with the base suspension, save money, or then directly go with the DCC and have this, variety as a choice, and also profit from this adaptive suspension that always, adapts to the situation, no matter if you've set it as a preset a little bit stiffer or a little bit softer. Very interesting. And here now we can also see that the consumption, when we have just a cruise control, goes even below 6 liters. So an average difference between the diesel and the petrol engine here will end up about 1 to 2, probably 2 liters or more kilometers in favor of the diesel. But then again, to me, the biggest point is when you really hammer it, then the diesel will have an even better advantage. However, it will only pay off if you're driving a lot of kilometers per year. Then the diesel will make sense. If you're not that a frequent driver and, just like doing the 10,000 kilometers a year or something, then the petrol will also be just fine, even more economic for your pocket. So that's about the economic and consumption figures. Let's see if we can get it to some more performance once more. Blind spot monitor was also flashing here in the side mirrors. That's again a nice option to have. And I also want to test with this vehicle shortly what about the new assistant systems. So first of all, already talked about the cruise control, and then there's also the so-called travel assist. And let's test it here once more again, because the travel assist really keeps me in the middle of the lane. Thought that I keep my hands on the steering wheel, and since this one is the new capacitive steering wheel, I am also obliged to do so, otherwise the car would realize, even if I just take one hand off. And this travel assist already works in advance a little bit before I really, go over the side. But sometimes it's also getting deactivated, so you have to see always that it's actually activated, that this situation is suitable for that. So cruise control on the upper part, then the travel assist on the lower part, and then you see a special symbol for that. Now the road is changing a little bit, see here, and then car is keeping me inside the lane. So pretty interesting, those new assistance systems. And then you can increase or decrease the speed here just with your left thumb right there. And here now new traffic sign on, even those digital traffic signs above are picked up by the camera. Now it tells me 120 is new, and here it tells me now 100 ahead. This is now from the map data. It's a good example, very interesting. The first data was from the camera. Well, I think I have to go up. I missed it now, but I'll just take the next one. So it was very interesting because first the camera was seeing, this is 120 up there, and then the map data was telling me there's another speed limit ahead, and then adapting the speed. Now it realizes this famous German unlimited speed sign, there's unlimited speed again. And even if we are, for example, in the normal mode, we can go to the shifting mode of S, and then we can have a sport air shifting or also shift back ourselves, and then throw it out once more with the diesel here. Yeah, really good speed. Holger is also satisfied with the diesel here. So Holger, your pick, diesel or petrol?
Pick this one, really.
Holger would pick it. Yeah, we're both actually quite. We're not like the biggest diesel fans overall, but having driven the petrol and the diesel, I think this one makes a very good impression indeed.
It's more fun to drive.
Yeah, even Holger says more fun to drive just as a co-driver. Very interesting. we are not in the all-track now as we've driven in the other test. So this one might be a little bit more agile from the handling, but we also put the all-track to like serpentine roads, and that was also very sporty. So it's indeed a little bit more about the engine here indeed. So interesting finding. And now to our conclusion today with the Passat R-Line and the Passat Facelift in general. The R-Line adds this sporty styling. I think it fits the vehicle very well. Although I also really like the all-track crossover styling you can also find on our channel. On the interior, I think it will work even better with the Alcantara seats as another color contrast and also for the climate comfort of you as a passenger. In general, the Passat has a lot of room on the interior. That's also what's making it famous. And with the facelift here, especially not only headlamps changes, but also here more infotainment if you want so. Different sizes of screens available. I think the middle one, the 8-inch, would be a good tip because it's not too expensive, but already offers this new MIB3 called building platform for the infotainment systems. You can also live with analog instruments, but those digital ones also make it a little bit more convenient to show the big GPS map, for example. And also the assistance systems upgrade, that's also quite interesting if that's relevant for you. Interesting was also that we could test again the bi-turbo diesel here today, which is a really fun engine and probably the most fun to drive in this case. And it's very seldom that the diesel is the most fun engine to drive. However, it's also a diesel that is consuming quite a lot of fuel if you compare it to other diesels. But still, it will be a little bit better than with the petrol engine, especially when you have more, variation in your driving and sometimes hammer it a little bit more, then the diesel will stay lower. However, since the petrol engine in our other test scored quite good consumption figures, the gap is not that huge in this case. The Passat in general, very good as for driving, silent, great handling. Yeah, it's still a front-wheel driven platform here. Then with the big engines, you also have the all-wheel drive, so always this combination, DSG dual clutch transmission, the all-wheel drive front plus rear on demand. But still, accelerating out of the corners, you realize that it's not a rear-wheel platform. However, the neutral handling and the progressive steering, that's really cool. And therefore, still a Passat that is, when you say, oh, I own a Volkswagen Passat, not everyone will say, oh, that's super exciting. But with a sporty package here, and with this very nice agile driving handling, also just for a base Passat, even more with DCC, it is still a fun car to drive. That's also a crucial point. So thank you so much for tuning in. Also tune into more reviews here. Hope to see you next time.